Welcome to another manga recap. Quick side note, after minute 45 or something like that, the audio peaks a bit, so I'm sorry about that. Today's video will be about Ending Maker Part 5. You can find all the information about this manga pinned in the comment section. Without further ado, enjoy the video. Also, special thanks to my patrons. The Witch's Forest. This was the name of the old Trafalgar Forest located inside the territory of the Northern Viscount. Due to the entire forest being infested with monsters, there aren't many people living within the area. And due to the roads being rough, carriages are unable to enter. So because of all this, they will be going on foot from there. They will be sending all the carriages to the Northern Viscount. Outboxer was still embezzling Lucas. After their adventure, it would be good to greet the Northern Viscount while they're in there. Of course, he heard that he was a nice and kind person. YellowStorm was already annoyed. He was scheming something again. She was pretty much brainwashing him into thinking that this was an adventure. Not only was Lucas not suspicious of anything, it looked like he was already pretty trusting of Outboxer already. Did he plan all of that ahead of time? Now that she was thinking about it, something felt off. The odd tone that he's been using on Lucas, and also how he acted during the meeting. Everything felt off when he suggested that they could just forge the documents. Not only that, how did he even manage to perfectly forge the documents? If all of this was planned because he trusted his own skills and charisma, YellowStorm was getting more and more suspicious about his job back on Earth. After analyzing all this information, she realized that he could have been a scammer. He was right behind her, saying that he could already tell what she was thinking about. He was just an ordinary citizen that paid his taxes and followed the laws. So she better stop having weird thoughts. Taxes? He paid taxes? Of course, does she want him to commit tax evasion then? Anyway, they better start heading out. While Outboxer started to walk, she just sat there quiet. Hangovers and taxes. If that was all true, that meant that he was a working man. She didn't like this because this meant that he was older than her. After that exchange, I quote, their adventure began. The forest was pretty much desolated with dead trees and crows everywhere. And now, on top of that, corpses of monsters were everywhere. After that quick fight, Dahlia put her sword back in the seat. Lucas didn't even need to raise a finger. Their knights did all the work. Lucas was a bit disappointed, saying that this seems pretty different from the adventure he had in mind. Outboxer laughs a bit. Well, this was obvious since they have all those escort knights with them. He could only say, well, safety is always first. He turns towards YellowStorm, who was shaking for some reason. What was wrong? Was she hurt? Her reply seemed very angry. If she had hunted all of those monsters, she would have gotten so much experience. Seeing her reaction, Outboxer was seriously thinking that there was something wrong with her. They've managed to clear out the area of all the monsters. However, from their findings, they noticed that the fog gets thicker the deeper they travel into the Witch's Forest. Hearing this, Outboxer realized something that he forgot. He takes a piece of rope out of his bag. Without any explanation, he starts tying up YellowStorm. What in the world was he doing? Jokingly, he says that he was going to use it if she ran away. He can't just let her bite someone, right? Even more annoyed, she asks him if he wants her to bite him. He was just joking, but he will pass. Since they won't be able to see well, they had to use that to avoid getting separated. He could have just told her that in the first place. Seriously though, her waist was really thin. His analyze of her waist was suddenly interrupted by Lucas. Why was he putting that on Lady Cordelia's waist? Well, it was because of the fog. Oh, that's why. Made sense. If he would prefer, would he like to stay attached to them as well? Of course, it would be better to do what they can so they don't get separated. Lucas was in bliss. Knowing that he will have this reaction, Outboxer was laughing inside. Meanwhile, YellowStorm was really annoyed because this was looking really weird. But Lucas seemed totally unaware of that. He was hyped to go. Their knights were laughing at them, calling them cute. Outboxer tells her to just hold it in. And a bit later, it was just like their knights said. The deeper they walked into the forest, the thicker the fog got. Even YellowStorm realized that the fog was getting really thick. thick. It also felt really creepy. It felt like someone was staring at her. Outboxer suddenly stops walking, and because of that, YellowStorm bumps right into him. This was painful. Why in the world did he stop all of a sudden? Well, the environment just changed. What? Seeing that he stopped, Lucas asks him what was the issue. Well, the ground just changed. The ground changed. What does he mean? The smell, the size of the particles, the composition was all different from where they were before. And also, another thing. It was suddenly quiet. The moment she heard that, she realized that he was right. She starts screaming, calling out Dahlia's name, but she gets no reply. Sir Theon and Sir Cilion were not replying neither. It looked like all the knights were gone. Just like Outboxer predicted, now they were all alone. In the end, the rope they used served its purpose. She thought that they couldn't see anything because of the fog, but that was not it. They've been transported to a completely different forest. An area completely separate from everyone else. Realizing this, he starts talking with Lucas. It looked like the real adventure just begun. Hearing this, Lucas was pretty happy. Let the adventure begin. Seeing that the fog was getting lighter, they decide to drop the rope. While walking deeper into the forest, YellowStorm notices something interesting. 2 corpses of past soldiers. Their clothes and swords were there, but the rest of their body was gone. Outboxer approaches the corpses and starts inspecting them. It was pretty old, but that was an emblem from the guards of the Holy Cross. If he was referring to the guards that he heard of, does he refer to the guardians that hide in the shadows to protect the continent? Exactly. Based on the circumstances, it seemed that a small group of the guards were caught trapped inside the barrier. So he was suggesting that it's easy to enter the barrier. All they needed to do is find the witch's seal and undo the barrier. A bit sad, YellowStorm was quiet. While they were still inspecting the corpses, they suddenly hear YellowStorm casting Dig multiple times. They turn around surprised to see what was going on. She wanted to bury them. No, she takes that back. They need to bury them before they go. Since it was pretty easy to dig a hole with her magic, it won't take much time anyways. Lucas agreed. Those were the people that risked their lives for the security of the continent. Smiling, Outboxer agreed as well. Okay, let's do it. Leaving the guards in the open like that, he didn't think that that was the right thing to do anyways. Perfect, she will finish digging the hole then. In the meantime, they will prepare the bodies. After casting Dig one more time, Cordelia finds something interesting once again. Seeing her reaction, Outboxer realized that something was wrong. She found a wooden chest while she was digging. When she opened it, there was a book and a scroll. It seemed that there was an attack spell that executes demons. Also, conveniently, there was a book with divine martial arts as well. Looking at the seal on the outside of the wood chest, it seemed that they were fighting the demons that were sealing the witch's soul. When they arrived there and were trapped, a spell. Could Cordelia use it then? Well, yes, probably. Lucas says that since the book was on divine martial arts, he believed that Yuda should take it. He was a sword user anyways. Obviously, he did not decline the book. With that, it was perfect. They were sure that the guards of the Holy Cross would be happy with this. After digging the grave, they made a cross out of their swords. They already responded to them by giving them the book and the spell. And all of this was thanks to Lady Cordelia's kind nature. A bit blustered and shy, she stumbles her words saying that they can talk about this later. They should just start heading out again. Right after saying that, she hears a weird voice. Why don't they head deeper into the forest? Okay then, they can try going that way. Before they manage to do that, Cordelia stops both of them. She could clearly hear a voice saying, "My children, come over." She knew that she wasn't imagining it. When Outboxer approaches her, she says that she can hear voices. She points towards a direction. The voice was saying, "Come to the large forest with the exposed roots." Someone wanted them to go over there. The voice continued. Then, after coming there, if they do so, they will be able to meet her. It was the one and only witch of the forest who was speaking directly to Cordelia. After that exchange, they started walking towards the voice. Of course, since Cordelia was the only one who could hear the voice, she was leading the way. The witch's voice, huh? She looked really proud. This was her moment. Lucas was asking if Lady Cordelia can actually hear her. She couldn't hear anything at all. Laughing a bit, Yuda replies that they should trust Lady Cordelia and follow her. But in reality, to be honest, while everyone was walking following Cordelia, he heard the voice. For some reason, he can hear the witch as well. The witch was telling them to move a little more forward. He couldn't see anything with his eyes, but that hazy voice he could hear in his head was probably the witch. But hold on, was someone other than Cordelia supposed to hear her? Looking at Lucas, that doesn't seem to be the case. Okay, let's think about it. A similarity that Yuda and Cordelia have that Lucas doesn't. He has a flashback with a fairy queen saying that it's because they're beautiful. No, there's no way that that's the reason. Even so, he was quietly following Cordelia. She was all giddy, showing them the way. The witch was sealed inside the cave in front of them. Cordelia was as hype as she could be. Seeing this, Lucas tried to warn her, saying that there was a huge tree root under her foot. She already saw it, so come quickly. Seeing all this, Outboxer had a very clear decision. For now, she looks happy since she was the main character of the episode. There was no need for him to reveal the truth and ruin the moment for her. And just like that, the voice was telling them that just a little closer. They were nearly there. That was right, that was the right way. After walking for a while, they noticed that they arrived at the destination. In front of them, they could clearly see the witch who was frozen in some sort of crystal. After welcoming them, she asked them to free her from the seal. Seeing this, Lucas was a bit surprised there really was a person inside the ice. The witch starts explaining how to remove the seal. Of course, YellowStorm already knew how to do this. She starts explaining to unseal the witch they need to weaken the sealing stones in each corner with holy water. After that, they need to use an unsealing magic circle on the central piece of the ice. Of course, the witch was like, huh? Well, that was right. Alright then, she will go and sprinkle the holy water around, so she will leave this place to them. Since Yuda played the game as well, he already knew the process. Lucas was shocked that they can converse with such small detail with each other. The witch continues the form of the magic circle she needed to draw. Seeing that Outboxer was already drawing the magical circle, the witch was even more confused. How did he know? Was he a magician that specializes in sealing? He was pretending so hard to not seem like he can hear her as well. After a second, Cordelia returns. She was done. How about him? They were nearly finishing up as well. As confused as before, the witch tries to continue the explanation, but she realizes that they probably might already know? At this point, YellowStorm basically ignores her. She turns around saying that she will unseal the witch. Young Master Yuda and Young Master Lucas please step back for a second. After a second, she takes out a knife and prepares to cut her finger. This was the final step of the unsealment. After a small cut, blood started to drip on the magical circle. A second later, glowing in a blue bright light, the magical circle activates. The magical pressure changed so fast that you could basically feel it in the air. Lucas noticed that the magical circle's color was completely different compared to when they fought against the Demon King. A light not to suppress but to release? While the unsealment was still ongoing, they could hear a roar behind them. What was that noise? It was approaching quickly. Calm as usual, Yuda explains that it was probably the evil entity that was suppressing the witch. The one that the fairy queen told him about. He knew that this would happen, but this was a bit faster than he expected. It probably noticed that the seal was being broken, so this wasn't over yet. A bit annoyed, she turns towards them saying that this was going to take a bit, so better don't push her. Turning around towards the crystal, she noticed that it was slowly cracking. This needed to be faster. In that moment, she remembered her father's words. While healing one of her wounds, he started to explain something to her. Blood is the connection to the soul. For them, magicians, the blood that circulates within their body already has an incredible value. She better remember this carefully. She should handle her body with care. With those words in her mind, if blood connects to the soul, she will even pay her a tip. Behind them, they could see the doors being opened by a huge pair of claws. Cordelia knew what she had to do, but even so, this was still scary for her. This seal or whatever, just break it already. If you watch until this point, come on, subscribe. The stab of her hand resonated with the crystal, which broke instantly. And just like that, pieces of the crystal started flying everywhere. Of course, Yuder was paying attention to everything. The witch was finally free. It's been far too long. Cordelia was down watching the witch descend onto the ground. For freeing her from this incredible horrible seal. This seal that she had to endure for hundreds of years. This good deed won't go unrewarded. With a bright smile on her face, the witch thanks all of them for freeing her. In that moment, Cordelia starts speaking with the witch. She doesn't have the time to do so because the doors finally fall. And a very powerful enemy was coming right towards them. It was already there. This was way faster than it should have been. The witch noticed it as well. It seemed like she's endangered them all. Well, if she knew that, then please help. Of course, she also doesn't want the witch to part with them either. Alright, then they better listen to her. Putting her hands around Cordelia, she starts speaking with her. She will teach her the way to escape this danger. She had to accept her soul. Right after hearing those words, Cordelia could feel the surge of foreign mana going inside her body. She had to accept her soul into her body. In that moment, the change of pressure in the atmosphere was so strong that the outside was affected as well. A bit surprised, Dahlia turns around because of the noise. Everyone was searching for Master Yuder and the rest. Looking up to the sky, Dahlia could only question herself where in the world were they. She really hoped that Lady Cordelia was safe and sound. He was a bit concerned, but he could only just watch from afar. This was exactly the same progression as in the game. Right after she was unsealed, the witch whose body has already faded away. She temporarily bonds with Cordelia to deal with the monster and then breaks the connection. And after that, having been freed from her chains, the witch's soul just ascends. For having accepted her soul for a moment, Cordelia learns witch form. This is how the automatic event progression is in Cordelia's story. And just like he was saying, Cordelia started to slowly transform. Her colorful pink hair became a very dark shade. Even more, when she opened her eyes, their color was a dark green, just like the witch. This was Mrs. Witch's power. Because of the witch's power, her looks got completely transformed. Even her white dress became completely black. If things progressed normally, having borrowed the witch's power, Cordelia will be able to defeat the monster. However, some things were different from the game. Cordelia was able to learn something through the experience, but she quickly realized something, and I quote, "Fuck, wait, I have a problem." She could feel the overwhelming power inside her. She could feel the great power of the witch, but how does she use it? The witch was both confused and surprised. She expected Cordelia to know how to do this. She didn't, so stop talking and just tell her the hotkeys. Hotkeys? Yup, YellowStorm sucks at following events. He quickly turns towards Lucas, saying that they should try and buy some time. After that quick exchange, they dash towards the monster, who was getting ready to kill them. Seeing the two of them dashing towards it, the monster starts growling. He plants his feet deep into the ground, hitting it so hard that it broke the cement. The monster jumped towards the both of them. It was not planning to just wait and let the two of them attack. He was the one who was going to attack first. Even so, Outboxer was ready to go. He instantly cast 36 sky steps. As usual, after a quick moment, he appears behind the enemy, getting ready to hit. By that time, the sun's necklace was already charged up and ready to go. But something was different this time. The monster reacted in time. Outboxer didn't expect this. Outboxer did not expect this. This was the first time when this happened. This beast was fast. Even so, Lucas was there as well. He throws his sword just like a projectile right into the monster. The impact of the sword was so strong that it phased the monster away. Outboxer used the time to escape from the incoming attack. After that, he thanks Lucas, who replies saying that it was nothing. That aside, he will need to retrieve the sword if he wants to face the monster head on, though he doesn't think that they will have such an opportunity. Outboxer knew that he was right, although they leveled up after defeating that demon king. Not even Velestein's magical circle will help. The reason was that they didn't prepare the battlefield yet, it was a disadvantage for them to fight there. In the end, they have no choice but to trust in Cordelia. She was doing her best to lead the mana. She was trying to lead the mana, use the mana, and even press hotkeys. In the end, she goes berserk, annoyed that nothing was happening. Initially, the witch tried not to laugh, but she failed miserably. It was not working, just how in the world does she use it? She better stop laughing and just tell her. The witch laughs a bit, apologizing, saying that she was just way too cute. After that exchange, the witch raises her hand. Cordelia's body syncs with the witch in the same time, almost like both of them were controlling the same body. Of course, this took Cordelia by surprise, but after a second, a bright green magical circle started to form. She had to feel it slowly. Although it was the mana of another person, she had to allow herself to slowly take it all in. After all, her body was the container that holds it. The moment she succeeded, a bright light appeared out of nowhere. She opens her eyes knowing that now she was ready. The magical circle became bigger and bigger, and the spell was successfully launched. But the problem was that the one who got hit was not the monster. The one who got hit was Outboxer. The spell was so strong that he was basically launched into the wall. Lucas got instantly concerned. I mean, that looked like a one-shot kill. YellowStorm raises her head, breathing for a second. Alright, that was easy if you know how to do it. Alright, the fight starts for real now, so get ready. When she turns towards the monster, she notices something unusual. What happened? He was dead already? I mean, I'm pretty sure that he's not dead, but he looked like a corpse. YellowStorm starts screaming, how dare he defeat Yuder? She was not going to forgive him. A bit embarrassed, the witch tries to say that it was probably her fault, but YellowStorm doesn't even notice her. The monster was a bit confused, looking at Cordelia like she was crazy. A second later, Lucas notices that a big attack was coming their way. The monster was getting ready to breathe fire. Oh my god, is she doing what I think she's doing? Completely unfazed, she just elegantly flicks her hand. Her magic hits the monster right in his chin. Because it was forced to close its mouth, the monster ended up exploding himself. Even so, the attack was so strong that it hit the ceiling of the cave in two different places. But again, Cordelia was totally unfazed. The ceiling was falling right over them. Seeing all this, Cordelia raises her hand in order to try to cast magic to stop this. After a moment, she manages to do it. The ceiling pieces that were falling stop in the air. A moment later, she clenches her fist. She had no choice but to keep going. A huge whirlwind formed around the monster. Because of the flying pieces of ceiling, the monster was constantly getting hit. The problem was that Cordelia was slowly getting to her limit. The witch tells her that it's too early to wield her power as she wishes. She couldn't just wield the power, she should just use the magic. Okay then, tell her some spells. She didn't know any spells. She didn't know that either, although she wanted to tell her. Right in that moment, the monster broke free from the spell. Even though she wanted to tell her, they didn't have the time. With Cordelia being fatigued on the ground, the monster was right above her. In that moment, something amazing happened. His eyes got green as well. He plants his feet onto the ground, getting ready to use the 36 sky steps. With just 1 second before the impact, he dashes towards Cordelia. The moment he reaches her, he quickly grabs her and, for the first time, he uses the fairy steps. A split of a second later, the attack of the monster hit everything. They barely managed to dodge the attack. The fairy's footsteps just saved their lives. He quickly starts talking with Cordelia, trying to see if she was alright. But the problem was that she was not responsive. The witch was telling her that her reckless use was worsening the backlash. Any more than this would be dangerous. She knew that, but she was the only one who could hear her voice. In that moment, Outboxer grabs her by the arm. She just looked at him without saying anything. There was no need for words, it was more than obvious what he was trying to tell her. She was both relieved and annoyed in the same time. With a huge grin on her face, she said just one word: fuck. He better not forget that she was the one letting him win, saying that the witch's power slowly left her body. The moment the witch's power left her body, her colorful hair was back. And now it was Yuder's turn to transform. Just like Cordelia, his clothes suddenly started to change. And of course, his hair started to grow as well. He had to do this, it was his turn to protect her. Now that he had a temporary power up, he might just be able to pull it off. The witch starts speaking with him as well. The technique of the Holy Cross Guardians was not compatible with her power. An overwhelming backslash will strike him, but he already knew this. Even so, he knew that this was the only way to do this. Cordelia was basically passed out in his arms. The truth was that they don't have the time to stand around waiting for a spell. And just like that, he starts casting a spell using the witch's magic. Seeing this, the monster raised his arms in order to protect himself from the attack. The spell hit him head on. Even so, the demon was still pushing through the magic. Outboxer was doing his best to push the monster back, but it looked like he will lose this fight. It was not the technique that was lacking, what was lacking was something else. The reason he was losing this was his body, who was not fully recovered from the 9 blocked-in pathways. Seeing this, the witch started to talk with him again. At this rate, even him will lose. Before she manages to finish her sentence, she gets surprised by something unexpected. And by something, I meant someone, and that someone was Cordelia. She barely manages to raise her hand in order to cast one singular magic missile. Laughing a bit, she tells Outboxer that she can't even take a break. And just like that, the magic missile starts flying towards the monster. The projectile goes right around Outboxer's magic in order to not destroy it, right into the monster. Even more, as usual, she had crazy good aim and hit the monster right into its eye. Now, because of the sudden pain, the monster was being pushed back. The moment the monster lost its balance, Outboxer noticed it immediately. This time, the magical spell that he cast was way bigger and brighter. He knew that this was his time to strike. The explosion was so strong that basically they couldn't see anything for a good couple of seconds. Still not having his sword, Lucas was watching from afar. The monster screamed in agonizing pain, and 1 second later, the life within its eyes faded away. Shortly after, the monster's corpse started to just fade away. It collapsed into dust just like the demonkin from before. Even if he was amazed at the result, he realized that he needed to do something. Both Cordelia and Yuder were laying lifeless on the ground. You have obtained the title Demon Slayer. All stats plus 3, attack power against demons increased by 5%. She was satisfied with this, they leveled up and got a good title as well. Since the monster was dead, the chains should be broken as well. And of course, Lucas was safe as well. He was very concerned though, calling out to both their names. And also nothing, she gave up midway, realizing that she can't think right now. Gently raising her hand, she tells Luca that she will sleep for a second. And because of it, she asked him to deal with the aftermath. And just like that, with Lucas calling out her name, she passed out. Out of the blue, they can hear the witch's voice once again. If they can hear her, they should open their eyes. They should wake up and look at her. Outboxer manages to slowly wake up. This was an unfamiliar place. Both of them were sitting on a couch. Smiling, the witch tells them that seeing them take care of each other even there is great to see. This was her mental world. Their bodies have fallen into deep sleep. She transferred their consciousness there. Okay, so that explained why they were there together. That's right. Then it was time for the three of them to have a chat. Let's see, should she tell them about her past? Again, as subtle as a brick, Cordelia says, I already know about it. It was more than obvious that the witch was disappointed. Really, she knows that as well. Well, then does she also know why she was sealed away? Yep, she knows that as well. The witch was so disappointed that it was more than visible now. Even someone as oblivious as Cordelia noticed it. She suddenly changes her mind, saying that she doesn't know it that well, so please tell her all the details. Hearing this, a bright smile appeared on the witch's face. Yes, really, she really wanted to hear her story. Seeing her reaction, the witch laughs a bit and starts telling her story. A long time ago, there was a child who was sold just for 9 copper golds. That child was to be used as sacrificed for a demon summoning. That child was made to become the demon's plaything her entire life. After she died, she fated to flail around suffering for eternity. The ones who sold her were her parents. The ones who made her a slave were demons. Although she had never made a choice of her own will, the child did not accept her fate. She used her body as a slave to bring down many demons. From that point onwards, people started to call that child Witch. As time passed, the witch continued getting stronger. She became strong enough to be noticed by the 5 lords of hell, and among them Asmodeus planned on using the witch's soul to eliminate the other lords of hell. Without anyone's knowledge, he trapped the witch's soul within the Trafalgar Forest. The plan was to make the witch's soul obey him until the day he carried out his plan. The story ended up being long. This was her life story until now. They were a bit tired since the game gave only a concise summary. Hearing the full story there was actually pretty long. Well, they did just hear someone's entire life story. The witch stretches a bit, saying that this was really refreshing. Out of nowhere, she grabs Cordelia's face. However, the past is in the past, so they better start talking about the future. She got really close to Cordelia and it looked like she was planning something. Even if it was only for a moment, she held her soul. She was able to learn of her potential from her body and soul. She had the potential to have the same kind of power as her. And out of the blue, she kisses Cordelia on the cheek. Of course, she was a bit shy, confused, and didn't know what was going on. The witch tells her that she left a trace of her in her soul. She had to remember the feeling she had when she used her power and use it to grow her own power in the future. And also, after that, she turns towards Yudar. Even though she really wanted to give him something, he is not compatible with her. It was more than obvious that he was disappointed. He kinda hoped that he could get a power-up as well. Rather, he holds a different potential. Hearing that surprised him a bit. A different potential? As in what? The witch doesn't reply. She delayed it for way too long. Now it was finally her time to leave. Before her soul finally faded away, she turns towards the both of them. They will meet again in the future. After being freed from her centuries of imprisonment, the witch ascended. After that, she never appeared again. However, what she said wasn't an eternal farewell, but a see you later. Another point that has been changed from the original story. After that encounter, they started to slowly open their eyes. Dahlia was right next to them, waiting for them to wake up. She was holding Cordelia's head onto her lap. So, how was she feeling? Was she dizzy or anything else? Right after saying that she feels fine, she noticed that her hand is covered in bandages. Outboxer was alive as well and was happily waving at her. Okay, but where was everyone else? Everyone else was doing fine without any injuries. As for young Master Lucas, at the moment the demon was about to attack Lady Cordelia, at that moment was what he told everyone. Young Master Yuda throwing his body to save Lady Cordelia was such a sight to behold. It was a display of true love that defied even the fear of death. He made sure to tell everyone what happened. He was having a chat with the knights over there. Hearing all this, Cordelia was going crazy. After that, Lucas notices as well that they finally wake up. After the battle was over, the witch led all the knights in there. Seriously, it was such an interesting experience when he started hearing the witch's voice. That feeling of her voice echoing in his head, it was so hard to explain. Really, that's nice to hear. It seemed like he was happy that he got to hear the voice that he didn't get to hear in the forest. He was such a noble simp. In the end, the both of them passed out due to exhaustion. She was told that there was nothing wrong physically with them. Since they all had time to rest after getting there, it seemed like the plan was to camp out there. After that, they will leave the forest early in the morning. Even more, Lucas suggested that young Master Yuda and Cordelia get more rest. Outboxer thought that that would be for the best as well. He will also need to look around to see if there are any items he could get. He thanked them for the consideration. Of course, Cordelia was not fooled. He had that perverted smile on his face. She could already tell that he was trying to collect some items there. And while the two of them get some rest, the entirety of the events that happened there, he will be sure to explain to them without missing a single detail. He was shining so bright that he was annoying. Also, Outboxer didn't have the energy to argue. In the end, Cordelia asks him to tell them just the important details. After a while, as planned, they resume their trip. They will be heading for the estate of the Northern Viscount and stay there for a couple of days. The people from the main family will meet them at the estate as well. Meet them? Was he talking about the escorts from his family? About that, it seemed like someone that he truly respected was also coming. Someone he truly respected. Well, yes, although this was quite embarrassing. Since it's been a long time since he saw that person, he was actually quite excited. After that, when they were inside the carriage, they start talking with each other. So, who does he think that person was? The person that Lucas was talking about? Outboxer was not really interested in the topic. What was with his reaction? He was not curious at all. Wait, what's that item that he was holding? He tells her that it's from her father. What, another gift? When did he do that? Maya gave it to him before they left. Hearing this, she was angry as usual. Why did he only give him something? No, this time he had something for her as well. Really? Indeed. Since they are the new engagement rings, there should be two of them. Hearing this, she was a bit flustered. After opening the box, they could hear Arthur talking. Young Master Yuda, seems like you've opened your gift. Hearing her father's voice surprised her a bit. He heard from Alex that he didn't train in the way of the sword but in the way of the fist. Since it would be awkward if he broke the precious jewel while fist fighting, he will give him a new ring. It was her father's voice. It looked like there was a message spell on it. He assumed that he meant that he removed the jewel to avoid injuring his hand. And also, one more thing, he better take care of Cordelia. 2 seconds of silence. Idiot! Cordelia starts laughing. He better take good care of her. If not, she will tell her father about everything. He couldn't believe her. He also has a father. He can tell him everything as well. She starts pouting, saying that he was so immature. Right back at her. By the way, there was a user manual inside the box. Wow, what was that? Engagement ring. Increases the effect of magic between users. Healing magic is stored in Yuda's ring and defense magic is stored in Cordelia's ring. It seemed like there was a buff option between the users. Wait, so that meant that the magic was stored in each ring and then it was amplified when used. The concept was pretty straightforward. Well, yeah. The fact that it was so pretty and cute is what he would expect from Count Chase. After that exchange, he takes a second to look at the ring. He tells Cordelia to give him her hand. Huh? Her hand, obviously. After grabbing her hand, he suddenly pulls her towards him. This took Cordelia by surprise. With no hesitation, he gently puts the ring on her finger. After doing so, he turns around her palm, inspecting it. She was basically worried that she might have a scar left from the wound. Maybe it was because they were treated with magic when she woke up, but it looked fine. When he looks up and sees her reaction, he couldn't help but smile. She was blushing so much. Of course she would. He just nonchalantly put the engagement ring on her finger. He jokingly asks her what's wrong. She stumbles her words, saying that it was nothing. It looks really good actually. Maybe it was because her hand is pretty. It suits her very well. Okay, he has to do this on purpose. She blushed even harder, saying, of course, I'm Cordelia, my favorite character. Also, how long was he going to hold it? If he was done, of course, the carriage suddenly stops. And the obvious happened. She fell right on top of him. Hearing her scream, one of the knights suddenly opens the door. They had to stop the carriage because of a tree blocking their way. He had that facial expression of, this is not what it looks like. Of course, the knight had a different impression. She quickly apologized, saying that it looked like everything was fine. pardon me and enjoy your time. When she gets up, she asks him if there wasn't always a scene like this in the novels or comics. Breaking the fourth wall much? After a while, the night covered everything. And just like that, they arrived at the Viscount's estate. He welcomes Lucas along with young Master Yuda and Lady Cordelia. Viscount Northern, the Lord of the Northern Territory located between Langast and the Halsberg territories. Okay, maybe I'm just crazy, but he looks like the basic character that betrays them. He heard the story from Langast. He was glad to see that all of them were doing fine. It was thanks to his worries that they were able to make it out. He laughs a bit, saying that this old man knows nothing. They must be tired. They can greet each other properly tomorrow in the morning. It must have been a gruesome journey. They should get some rest. One of the maids offers herself to lead them to their rooms. While Cordelia was sniffing herself, Outboxer thanks them for their kind consideration. Before they leave, she starts talking with Outboxer. She doesn't remember much about Viscount Norton from the original story, but it looked like he was a nice person. He pretty much agreed with her. In that moment, somebody starts talking with Cordelia. It was Dahlia asking her if she was going to her room now. She was. What about her? Did they prepare a room for the knights as well? They did, but it seemed like they came to the conclusion that the knights were having a drink on the first floor. Seeing all this, Cordelia was more than happy. That was perfect. She should join them as well if she was not tired. She really needed a chance to relax herself as well. She was going to decline since she was in the middle of an escort mission. Why? Cordelia was really hoping that Dahlia would get to eat good food and get some good rest. Even Lucas agreed with Cordelia. They were not the only ones that went through those troubles. Smiling, she says that she understands. She will be sure to do that. With a huge smile on her face, Cordelia tells her that she will see her tomorrow. Okay, then it was time to get some rest. Lucas tells them that he will be heading in first, so please get some rest, young Master Yuda and Lady Cordelia. She almost forgot. She needed to tell Yuda something. It was to tell him good night. Why is she all giddy? Look at her. What is that face? Completely unfazed, he goes like, okay, I hope you dream of me as well. What in the world was he saying? After some hours, it was pitch black outside. Somebody was walking on the roof of the building. Of course, by that time, Outboxer was sleeping sound in his room. And this is exactly what that person hoped. This was an assassin that was coming after his life. Out of nowhere, his room exploded. The explosion was so strong that it almost killed the assassin. He raises his head a bit confused, just what in the world happened. After a second, he even notices that the bed was empty, but this should be the room. Before he manages to finish the sentence, Outboxer was right behind him. Just one strike was enough to black out the assassin. He was more than ready for this. Of course, Outboxer was a very cautious person. That attire was the Demon's Hand clothing. After failing in Langast, they were trying to take his life again. Truth be told, he left his guard down. He needed to get out of there with Cordelia as soon as possible. Right as he thinks that, she barges into the room yelling his name. Seeing the state of the room and him standing over the assassin, she was a bit confused. In that moment, she notices two more assassins behind him. Her magical missiles completely dodge Outboxer and hit her target. The assassins stood no chance. He laughs a bit, saying that it looked like she was doing just fine. It seemed like the witch's effect was helping a lot. Well, it was, but she can't use it for long. Anyways, they better hurry and get down before it ends. The knights should all be drinking on the first floor. Lucas should be downstairs as well. The door to his room was open. Also, what was that sound just now? It sounded like an explosion. Well, that was him, of course. He installed a booby trap in case someone tried to trespass through the window. An exploding trap? Was he insane? Well, yep. The fact that they assigned them to the second floor and the distracted knights using a nice drink as excuse. All of this must mean that they know the extent of their forces and what to do to exploit their weak spots. There was only one case where all of this would be possible. The Viscount's northern estate was a trap. In that moment, they noticed young Master Lucas. He was already fighting a member of the Demon Hand. That instant, Cordelia casts Grease once again. Took by surprise, the enemy troops lost their balance. Lucas instantly noticed this and got ready to attack. In a split of a second, he manages to kill all 3 enemies standing in front of him. This kid was amazing. The enemies were completely taken by surprise. Also, Outboxer wasn't going to just stand and watch the fight. As usual, he appears behind the enemy and kicks one of them to the ground. Before the enemy fell onto the ground, he took his stance and prepared to strike again. With one uppercut, he sent the enemy flying upwards. Soon after that, the floor was filled with corpses and blood. After the enemies were eliminated, Lucas starts approaching the both of them. Was Lucas hurt anywhere? He was fine, but there was a problem. After the knights managed to get out, the exit got blocked as well. Hearing this, Cordelia got concerned instantly. Running away, she yells that they can use the back entrance to get out. Outboxer tries to stop her, so he starts running out of her, calling out to her name. Something was off. For a while now, she had a very bad feeling. Right as she thinks that, she sees Dahlia fighting. In that moment, Outboxer managed to get to her as well. They don't know what was ahead of them, so she better slow down. But in that moment, she had no intention of slowing down. With an arrow through her leg, Dahlia was slowly being pushed down. And it looked like a pretty serious wound as well. The moment she sees this, Cordelia starts running towards Dahlia. She yells at the enemies saying to get away from their knights and instantly starts casting magic. But this was all going according to their plan. Before she manages to finish her spell, she suddenly feels something very weird. It could only be described as gravity pulling her to the ground. The spell was so big that it covered all the mansion and the yard. Everyone instantly fell on the ground, even Dahlia was unable to stand up. It was a feeling of an invisible power pressing down on them. This was most likely a gravity field. The enemies were having a blast since their plan worked. The ones responsible for all of this were right in front of them, and it looked like they were not affected by the gravity field. Viscount Northern. He was worried since he heard that they defeated Minos. Thanks to the kid from the Halsberg family, things were much easier. To think that he would trust them so easily. Realizing that Lucas was responsible for all this, he got really angry. Now all they needed were the children of the 12 families alive. And just like that, he orders the warriors to kill the knights. And because of the gravity field, the knights couldn't really fight back. Hearing this, Cordelia starts speaking to him. Did he think that she would let him do that? Seeing her reaction, Outboxer got instantly concerned. She tells him that if she will amplify the witch's power, she can blast away the gravity field. Although she will most likely pass out after that, with the knights and Lucas. And of course, him there, she will be just fine. She was basically telling him that she trusts him to finish the fight after she will pass out. Cordelia's suggestion was the only way to get out of that situation. Doing this, it would be bound to be severe consequences. Before he manages to say all this, something unusual happened. The ground starts shaking so bad that the enemies thought an earthquake was happening. The maid was the first one to notice and tell the Lord to look up. There was a hole in the sky. And followed by that, a very bright light literally split the sky into two. That light landed right in front of them, shattering the ground. At that moment, she thought that the sun had fallen from the sky. Although she knew that it was impossible, it was because the person who appeared, that person was shining so brightly in front of them. Because of him, the gravity shield instantly got destroyed. Of course, Outboxer noticed it as well. The gravity field was actually released. No, rather than being released, it was more like it got obliterated. To think that he would come at a time like this. It looked like Lucas knew who that person was. That was the person that he was so happy to meet. That was the red-headed warrior, the man that he respected so deeply. His name was Sir Landius. And indeed, he was as strong as Lucas was saying. With just the force of one of his punches, about 6 people started flying in the opposite direction. Seeing this, the enemy forces instantly targeted him. While all kinds of projectiles and spells were flying towards him, he compliments them saying that they made the right decision. However, the difference in power was just too overwhelming. He didn't even use a technique, he just released pure energy. The energy output was so strong that it basically launched everyone into the air. And it was not just the enemies who got affected, the building got hit as well. While almost being sent flying, Cordelia was searching for Dahlia. Before she manages to reach Dahlia, she loses her balance and actually starts flying. In the last second, Outboxer manages to grab her. Seeing the power that was displayed in front of them, Outboxer couldn't help but be shocked. This wasn't a mere martial art. With just a few punches and a couple of shouts, he managed to defeat all the opposition that Count's knights were struggling against. It was well known that he met a gruesome end, one of the real main characters of the first Legends of Heroes, Landius of the Red Flame. He was proudly standing over his enemies saying that they were a bunch of weaklings. It looked like he didn't even need to use his sword. Let's see now, was everyone safe? When he turns around, he notices something unusual. Two new faces, Cordelia and Outboxer. Laughing a bit, he starts approaching them. It was safe to say that Cordelia was a bit scared, and I could understand why. He looked terrifying. Raising a hand, he starts talking with them. In that moment, Cordelia just hides her face onto Outboxer. Unexpectedly, he just puts his hand on Outboxer's shoulder, saying that he will make him his disciple. This was not what they expected. Pardon? What exactly was he saying? He will teach him the 9 heavens, 9 doors technique. That was the reason why he will become the disciple of Sir Landius, the boy with the body of heavenly talents. Talents for martial arts are bestowed by the heavens. The body with heavenly talents. This was a trait that individuals with the 9 severed meridians demerit. This was another trait that Yuda Bale possesses. In Legends of Heroes 2, with this trait, Yuda was skillful in not just hand-to-hand combat but also in using any kind of weaponry. Whether he chooses to master a single weapon like how Lucas or Maximilian specializes in the waist of the sword, or if he becomes an attack of all trades that could change his fighting style as needed, it was up to the player to decide. Thanks to this freedom, Yuda was able to learn most of the skills that pertained to the physical body. But even so, he never learned a martial arts called 9 Heavens 9 Gates. It was not something that appeared in the first game, but he felt like he heard of it before. All this time, Cordelia was hiding behind him. She suddenly touches him, throwing number 3 on his back. In that moment, he remembered. It was the martial arts of fantasies that was supposed to appear in the last expansion of Legends of Heroes 3. The 9 heavens and the respected 9 gates. A boy with a body with heavenly talents should be able to learn it. So, after hearing all this, will he become his disciple? To think that he would be able to get the chance to learn a martial arts that didn't even exist in the game, and also to be able to learn it from the main character of the first game. This was going so well. Of course, he had no reason to decline this. He will become his disciple. And just like that, a whole day has passed. He should have declined his offer after all. He was exhausted. Come on, did it hurt that much? It did. He was thinking that he was almost dying. Did he want to lie down? Should she help him? I mean, he wished, but most likely he would not be able to get back up if he lied down, since they couldn't be certain if there would be another attack after they made a decision to change location to the Halsberg estate. All he did was receive a couple of hours of training. Once they arrived at the estate, he will have to leave again. There was something that he needed to take care of. Before he goes, he will be sure to teach him the basics. Hearing all this, everything seemed fine. Outboxer had no reason to worry. Yet, out of the blue, he grabs him by his shoulder. Why don't they start with chest and triceps since it's the first day? One set of 20 push-ups, and once they are done with the upper body, they will do one set of 20 planks. It was not training, it was just physical abuse. He's never been this tired since he was at the front lines. Front lines? What was he talking about? Also, he starts talking with Cordelia. He tells her to come next to him. He can't move at all right now. Without asking any questions, she's like, alright, I'm here. Before she manages to finish her question, he starts pinching her cheek. What in the world was he doing? Does he want to get hit by a magical missile? She interrupts her, telling her to stay still. Although he was tired, he needed to tell her this. She had to listen closely. The reason why he created the fake documents, the plans on how to defeat Minos, and the fact that he can see the witch's soul. He told her everything. She got angry at him last time. That time when he awakened the boss mob without telling her. After a second of thinking, she remembers that it was in the dungeon book. That was why he was making it clear that he was not making idiotic plans without discussing them with her. That's why from now, he tells her to not run alone into places where she doesn't know what might pop out. What was she going to do if she awakened the witch's power and something happened to her? That would be plain suicide. She better stop worrying him like that ever again. Seeing that he was actually serious, she says that she will try her best. Also, she apologizes for worrying him. And also, she better stop avoiding eating her broccoli and get in the habit of sleeping in early. A bit annoyed, she's like, fine mom, come on, at least call him dead or something. Even so, after this fun exchange, he was still in pain. As an apology, Cordelia was going to heal him with her magic. She was in too much pain to decline the offer. And just like that, 6 days remain until they reach the estate. The next day, somebody gently knocks at her door. She burst the door open thinking that it was Dahlia. How was it? Did the doctor arrive on time? After that, she quickly realizes that it was not Dahlia, it was Dame Cillian. She promptly apologizes for not being Dame Dahlia. Young Master says that he had something to tell her. Could she come with her? Indeed, although he wished to tell the same to young Master Yuder, he didn't want to disturb his training. Did she hear of the Fire Sunflower? She did. It was a flower that blossoms once every 20 years. It holds an intense young energy. That was right, how knowledgeable of her. She tries to play it off, saying that it's a famous legend after all. But in reality, of course she knew, it was the young item second only to the fire sunfish and a cheat item that even raises all of your stats. It was not a legend, there were even a few details in the records. In the land of extreme bitter cold, a flower emitting an extreme young energy was found within the frost anvil. And in regards to when that was recorded, it was exactly 20 years in the past. So he determined that the flower will be able to cure young Master Yuder's illness. That was right, winter will arrive soon. So this lined up quite well in regards to time as well. This guy's sense was pretty good. Was he really not the rank 3 of the server? However, Frost Anvil is the coldest area in the north. To find the flower, young Master Yuder will have no choice but to go there. But he didn't know about taking Lady Cordelia with them to bear through the cold as well. They will need to find ways to keep themselves warm as soon as they get there. Well, there were a few monsters there like the winter bear. They will need to pack potions as well. What else do they need? Since young Master Yuder was still busy training, she will tell the knights for now. Hearing this, he tells her please do that. Okay then, if this was everything, she will be going now. Looking at the window outside, they were still training. And Yuder was basically almost dying once again. Seeing this, Cordelia was a bit amazed. They were still training. Lucas couldn't help but think that he had a beautiful fiancé with whom he works together so well, to the point where it seemed like they were two halves of the same soul. Even more, now he was the disciple of Sir Landius, who he always respected because he was like a hero from a fairy tale. He was a little envious of young Master Yuder. Of course, seeing his facial expression, she realized what was going on. She tells him that Sir Landius' martial arts can be learned unless one holds a special constitution. It's not because he was lacking in talent. Sir Landius has also recognized him. In terms of talent with the sword, he was at the same level with the sword Phantom Camel. He was very happy then, but he couldn't help but be just a little bit jealous. I mean, that was fine, but will he just sit there and continue to watch? Absolutely not. No way. He finally has a worthy rival, the thing that he longed for all this time. He can't afford to stay still while he's training like that. And indeed, he was training like crazy. Falling onto the ground, he tells Sir Landius that his legs aren't even moving anymore. His reply was that that was a great position to start his upper body training. Cordelia was watching all this torture silently from afar. In that moment, Landius realized something. He will arrive to the destination tomorrow, so it's already been 6 days since he'd taken him as his disciple. Then, there was only 1 day left. Unfortunately, it seemed like they will have to stop their muscle training for now. They will now start training the 9 heavens, 9 gates. Wait, hold on. Start training? What do you mean start training? Pardon? Then what did they do all these days? He didn't tell him? This was muscle training. Even if he did have the 9 block-in pathways, he was way too flimsy. He had to continue diligently crafting his body. Realizing this, he really wanted to swear. Yuder was training his body with Landius' training regiment. This was an impossible way to grow within the game. Wait a second. She instantly raises her hand in order to ask him a question. If he learns the 9 heavens 9 gates, will Yuder become as big as him? This was the imagination of Yuder, who grew to Landius' size and has beard as well for some reason. The silence takes over the room. After a second, he starts laughing. So she was saying that she was his disciple's fiancé. Then that could be an area of concern. His large size isn't because of the 9 heavens 9 gates, so she had nothing to worry about. It was not because of the 9 heavens 9 gates. Then what was the reason? The reason why he was this big was thanks to the blood of the giants coursing through his body. A technique that utilizes the currency of his soul and blood in order to go back and obtain the dormant power hidden within his body and soul. He grew to this size because of something called Ancestral Recall Technique. It was a technique that appeared a few times in Legends of Heroes 2. He didn't expect the blood of the giants to flow within Ladios though. But since he was the one who boasted incredible physical strength even in Legends of Heroes 1, he could see why that would make sense. Alright, then since the fiancé of his disciple was now rid of her worries, she will teach him the 9 heavens gates. This was a martial arts composed of 9 gates. It was a martial arts that will raise his body and spirit to the next level with each gate he opens. This technique was recovered from an ancient relic, all just to open the first gate. He just needs to memorize the technique, that was all. Pretty much, the only one who can open the gate of his body was him. All he can do is tell him the technique to lead him to the entrance. And just like that, he shows him the stance that he needs to take. He couldn't sit comfortably. He had to straighten his back and his shoulders. Also, he had to listen up closely. Right now, he opened up to the 7th gate, and only after reaching this point did he come to the conclusion that a special talent is required to completely master all the martial art. Special talent? What kind of talent? A talent that he did not possess, but with his heavenly martial constitution, he will be able to master the full technique and become immortal. What? Outboxer basically had the same reaction as me. This was no small feat. Becoming immortal would be a total game changer. He had to close his eyes and memorize this. This was not a martial arts that consists of attacking and defending. It was not even an inner ki breathing technique either. He had to create 9 gates within his body and spirit. Every time when a gate was opened, it will raise his body and spirit to the next level. A technique to evolve the soul, a technique that combines martial arts and cultivation into one. Right when he was doing that, he got a notification. 24 Tempest steps have been learned. Step technique that is an evolution to the 36 Sky steps. Composed of 24 steps, this is a step technique specialized in evasion. Can evolve to the next step when enlightenment is gained. And just like that, they kept training and training. The truth was that the earldom was pretty cold. It was a very harsh environment. Protecting her master will be a challenge, especially since she would have to endure the wounds caused by the demon worshippers. Those wounds that can't be fully cured by healing magic. She understood how she felt, but she hoped that she will return to Bailrune before the condition worsens. Dame Dahlia was in a pretty rough condition. Okay, long ride, but we are at the end of the video. Just like all the previous episodes, I can't express how much I like this series. Unfortunately, we have some bad news. The artist who is drawing the manga has some health problems, and they announced that they will be taking like a 3 months break for the health of the artist. So this series will take a small break. As usual, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe, it really helps the channel. That's it for now, see you next time.